What's up and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheen. I'm here with my co-host Dave Martinson. Dave, you gonna vote tomorrow or today, whenever people are listening to this?
Good thoughts, good words, good deeds, sir. Of course I'm going to vote.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm loving all the memes on Twitter. We record on Monday, so this is the day before the election. So this may be a bit of a dated conversation, but I voted in 2016 versus 2018 memes. Loving that. Should be interesting to see the results as they come out. But either way, do your civic duty if you're listening to this prior to the elections taking place. If not, you can do your civic duty by subscribing to Nowstalgia and also going to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod and following us on all the platforms that we're on: iTunes, Stitcher, wherever people, I guess, Google Play. Give us that rating and review on iTunes. Help us out. Help us grow. We got a lot to talk about, so we're not even going to chit-chat anymore. Let's jump in to your guy. Damn, or fuck, that's delicious. Action Bronson.
That's the one, dude.
What a guy. He released White Bronco this past Friday, which, I mean, it's interesting because Action Bronson, I feel like I never really love his albums, but I usually find one or two songs. I'm just like, that song fucking banged. And that's enough for me with Action Bronson. The rest can be shit and I like it. And that's pretty much exactly how I felt about White Bronco as well. I think the line I wrote down was, overall, it's like a classic Action Bronson album, but not a classic album, which just says everything I think you need to know about him. What was your take after a couple listens?
Yeah, I agree. I think White Bronco is a solid Action Bronson project. It definitely comes across that way. It's a short run time, right? He's kind of put it on Thursday, not even Friday. Yeah. He's kind of threw it out there. Did press a week beforehand. Didn't really talk about that much, right? And yeah, I think there's some good moments on it. I really like the title track, and it has the essence of what makes good Action Bronson music, which is funny, kind of out of nowhere bars, just kind of making funny metaphors and references and rhyming shit together in a unique way, and just kind of being the, weird personality that he is off mic, on mic. That's kind of his calling card, and I think this is a lot more of that. I mean, of course, he has good taste in production that's more, retro sounding. Harry Fraud, freaking Rob Stark's on here, and there's some good songs on here, but it also doesn't, overstay its welcome, which I think is nice because I think some of his projects might have got a little long in the tooth, Mr. Wonderful and Blue Chip 7000, which are I still think good projects, but there's some songs I didn't dig on there, but this is just kind of short and sweet, even if it's not his best project or anything. So I was, I was happy with it because I kind of had those expectations going in.
Yeah, I'll give those 20 to 26-minute albums a listen every time. That's nothing. It's lightweight. Actually, I think his live band, the Special Victims unit, is what really stands out to me on this album, because they really the songs range from very jazzy and really kind of light and airy to songs that fucking bang. Brutal has such a funky groove to it, and the distorted guitars on that track really, I think, push it over the top, even if nothing about Bronson's verses really stand out. What White Bronco, like you mentioned, is very dreamy, very jazzy influence. Same with Dr. Kimball, which those would probably be my two favorite tracks off the album. Irish Freestyle, I think, is another one that stood out to me. So yeah, I think there's not really too much to talk about with it, other than if you like Action Bronson, you'll probably like this, and if you're not into it, it's only 26 minutes. It doesn't cost you much. Takeoff, though, a little bit longer of an album, right around 38 minutes, about 40.
Shorter than Quavo, though.
Yeah, which
20 minutes shorter. It's a big deal,
and a much better album than Quavo, in my opinion,
for sure.
Give me your first impressions of Takeoff's album, The Last Rocket.
Yeah, so The Last Rocket's the title, and he quote has a rocket theme, and by that the first song Martian and then the last song Bruce Wayne have spaceship launching sounds, massive shit going on in the beginning and the end. Yeah. Other than that, I don't think the theme is explored at all, but at least we have a theme, and Quavo didn't have a theme, so we're reading on the curve. That's a positive for Takeoff. But knowing the way the Migos record, where they don't like write their bars down, they just kind of go into the studio and it goes off the dome, right? Which, I guess, considering the hits they have, is, I guess, kind of impressive in that regard. They've made songs without really trying, it sounds like. But Takeoff, if this is him not really trying, it's even better than that, because I think there's some intricate quote unquote raps on here. Again, I don't think the lyrical content's that important, but it's a step up from what Quavo's doing. I think he tries to talk about some of his personal issues on here, and I think this was definitely like his moment to shine as the third Migo, the last one to get a Wikipedia article, the one that was left off Bad and Bougie. We all know the story, and I think even though it was only 40 minutes, it was still too long. I think there were some songs we could have cut on this, but I thought it was pretty solid, and it's the best work from Takeoff thus far. I thought some of his verses on Culture 2, an album we didn't like, but he had some good verses on there, starting to really show, and I think this is the natural progression of that. So, I just wish that the three of them could put more effort in as a group, because I think through these two albums, we still know that they're all better together than they are apart. But yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's natural with Quavo releasing an album 2 weeks ago for us to be comparing them. Quavo, I think our biggest knock was he didn't really have anything to say, and it was just a bloated, kind of listless album. Whereas this had a lot more energy, and I thought the production on this was great. I thought, even though, like you said, a couple of the songs were kind of ran the fringe, probably could have been cut, I still think a lot of it was pretty quality. And I mean, he's definitely the most improved Migo at this point. By far, he's getting the MIM award at the end of the season at this point. I think the one knock I would have, and it's hard because coming from a group and one with such a signature, like when I hear like the signature Migo style with like the takeoff like in the background, like
stuff,
it always kind of like pulls me back to like I'd like to see him define himself a little bit more apart from Migos and find a little bit more of his own style. I'd like all of them too, but if that's always going to be their signature from when they first started, so I don't see that really going away. What song stood out to you most off this?
Yeah, it all kind of sounded the same to me, like sonically, but I guess the first song, Martian, I kind of dug. I don't know. I didn't write any of these songs down for like my personal download list or anything,
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kind of, I don't know. I think the first third, I think I liked the most. And then towards the back half, I started to kind of like settling into the vibe more. So yeah, I guess that the first few songs I liked the most.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think She Gon' Wink is probably the one that stood out most to me. Maybe that one will make it onto our Nowstalgia Best of 2018 on Spotify. Go check that out. Give it a follow. Because the next album, Vince Staples FM, definitely going to have at least one track, maybe two, that make it to this list. This one is perfect at 22 minutes. I was like, ooh, I might listen to this twice. I mean, I've listened to it a couple times through at this point. It maybe is my favorite rap album of the year. Vince Staples, man. I mean, I know that you've been, riding for Vince since he first took off. Talk a little bit about his last couple albums and then where it brings us to FM.
Yeah, fuck. I first started listening to Vince Staples in 2013. His third mixtape, Stolen Youth, because it was produced 100% by Larry Fisherman, aka Mac Miller. That's how I found out about him.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. And then started going from there. Another mixtape, and then fall 2014, his Hell Can Wait EP was really good, and I was like, this guy's like really, really awesome. And actually, Hagler produced a lot of that, and he's produced some of the songs in FM that Kenny Beats didn't make. And from there, his first album was a double disc, Summertime '06 in 2015, which was like quite a statement, and like West Coast album, shades of Kendrick, shades of YG, but he was already very much his own guy in terms of the way he tells his stories. And then last year we got Big Fish Theory, of course, an album that we reviewed. We both liked a lot. It was on my top 10 albums of 2017, and that was an album that a lot more experimental songs, right? Songs like Bag Back in the Black Panther trailer, for example. And he's had an EP or a mixtape basically every year since 2011. So he's been pretty prolific, but continuing to get better and better. And obviously, as we all know by now, his Twitter presence has really joined his rap presence very well because he's just so funny, but you also know he like walks his own walk and is actually really serious. So it's just the way he observes things is funny. Like the way it's so meta. Like the fact that he endorses Sprite, the way he used to give people Sprite, like metaphorically. So it's been really cool seeing him grow, and then the fact that he went from Big Fish Theory, which I thought maybe would be a permanent step in one direction, but no, it comes back with FM, this third album, which was effectively ghost dropped. He like tweeted a few days beforehand, "Hey, I'm dropping some music. Hey, it's music with Ty Dolla $ign, J-Rock, and all these people." And I was like, "Oh wait, oh he's serious. He's got like real music coming." And then sure enough, it's his album, and not only is it this short little album, but it's got this awesome radio theme, FM radio theme with Big Boy, one of the luminaries of California radio, woven throughout. Great transitions, and on top of that, it's like eight of the tracks I think are produced by Kenny Beats, who's like the hottest producer of the year, and incredibly versatile already as a producer. So I think it's a total win and probably the best ghost drop of the year in my opinion. But what do you think?
I mean, I already said it's probably my favorite rap album of the year. I'm trying to think what's probably up there with it. And
Daytona.
Yeah, Daytona is probably up there. Maybe Kids See Ghosts. But it's really funny because like Vince Staples, I feel like really Big Fish Theory came and really solidified him as an artist. And I was expecting him to kind of take a little bit more time to drop some music, and then out of nowhere he drops this. And it, like you said, it's kind of a return more to that West Coast sound that he came up with, and he does it so well while also like mixing in these lyrics that are really funny but really dark. Basically exactly like his Twitter, like you're talking about, merging that musical personality with his actual personality and how that all kind of comes together, flip that around to actual personality, music personality. And it's just and also to keep it like so short and concise, but still have an album that really, there's like moments that stand out. It's just so impressive. And I didn't look up, how old is he? Like 24, 25 at this point?
Yeah, I think he's born in 93, I'm guessing. Let me check. Yeah, he's born in 93. So he just turned 25.
25. I mean, it's crazy to think that he's probably dropped back-to-back top 10 albums of the year. I mean, the other part about it to me is that he has these teases for Earl Sweatshirt and Tyga in there.
Yep.
And I want to hear those songs. Give me the songs. Like just the whole thing. There's so much to like about it.
Yeah, honestly, like using in the radio theme, using like track premieres as your interludes is really cool. And also, I think you pick made perfect two picks for it within the album. Earl Sweatshirt, big fan. They've been friends for a long time. I think they met through Mac Miller, honestly, or in that circle. And Earl, we haven't had a lot of Earl music in a few years now. It's probably one of the most anticipated records we have. And teasing us with some Earl, fucking awesome. Yeah. And then also Tyga, who's very of the moment right now because he's had a great comeback, which I'm very happy to see. He's making the hottest music since 2011. So great two picks for that. But, I think Kenny Beats, just to harp on that again, he did like really good on Key's album 777 from I think May. Key's like he's been an Atlanta rapper for a handful of years now and got the best out of Key. But then Kenny Beats, if you look throughout, you just go click on it as Genius tab, you'll see he's made a lot of different beats this year. He's not like pigeonholed. Like, you think of what DJ Mustard sounds like or Metro Boomin sounds like, and like they're great producers, but you know what they sound like. Kenny Beats has already shown us in 1 year he can do all these kinds of things. So I think in the way like Pierre Bourne was the winner of last year, on the heels of Playboy Cardi, I would say Kenny Beats solidified himself with this record as the producer of the year. So he picked a great horse to attach his wagon to because Vince really brought it, like you said. So very happy with this. It's definitely in my top 10 records thus far.
What was your favorite song off the album?
Honestly, the first song, Feels Like Summer.
That's hot.
When I first put it on, as soon as I listened to it, I restarted Feels Like Summer. Right away. Like Ty Dolla $ign comes in there, and it's cool because like the features aren't credited, so you don't know when they're coming for the first time. And I thought Ty fit in fine. Then you have the radio theme coming at the end, and I thought it was really fun, energetic Vince verses. I think that was maybe a criticism of him early on, where sometimes he was still lyrical, still dark, still funny, but maybe not as bumping. But this is music that you can play at a party and have fun listening to. But he's not sacrificing anything lyrically. So I think it's a very impressive release. What's your favorite?
My favorite song was definitely "Fun," the single that he dropped. I was actually playing 2K, listening to it for the first time through, and Julianne was hanging out with me, and we both were like looked at each other like, oh yeah, like we were like both bouncing to it. And I was like, oh, we gotta listen to this one again. Like the moment that it finished, I went right back to it. So that was how I knew that was like the track for me off this. But really, the whole thing is such quality, and even if you aren't like familiar with Vince Staples, it's worth the 22 minutes as like kind of an introduction, but you should go back and listen to Big Fish Theory for sure. And his EPs definitely, I mean, he's just such a talented guy. And he's going to be around for a while. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. So again, check that out. Nowstalgia Best of 2018. We'll have a couple songs up there from the albums we talked about. Let's jump to The Bodyguard. It's insane to me that Robb Stark, out of nowhere, has this show that is the second most watched show in the UK behind the freaking World Cup, where England made it into the Final Four for like the first time in like a long time, like what, over 20 years or something like that. And this is what people are talking about, that Robb Stark is now going to be James Bond potentially off this role. It's bananas, dog. Bananas. We watched the whole series. I binged it last week. I really liked it. But there's lots to kind of talk about here, because I think there's some parts about this that could have been changed. I want to, before we jump too far in though, what was your impression of the show, and what do you think about Richard Madden as potentially the next Bond?
Yeah, I want to get to Bond. Let's save that.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of the ratings, like just to bring that home for a second, it's the highest rated new drama in England in 10 years. And that was since Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey, yeah.
It was almost as watched as Meghan Markle and Harry's wedding. Like, this shit was fucking insane. I think the finale got 17 million viewers. Like, it's ridiculous. And it's a great win for linear television and traditional cable and stuff, right? And it's also cool that we got this so soon, because this started airing at the end of August over in the UK. And then Netflix quickly picked up the international distribution, and we got it end of October. So that's quite the turnaround. Didn't used to be like that. I mean, you remember how Black Mirror, the first few series, when it was just an English show, not with Netflix, like it took a while for Netflix to even pick up those rights to show it to us before they became a Netflix show, right? So that's one of the perks of English television becoming closer to Hollywood now, is we get to see these good shows sooner and keep that conversation going. I think it's good for the showrunners as well. But yeah, I dug the show. I thought it was actually incredibly watchable, incredibly bingeable, and really engaging. But yeah, Richard Madden, great win for him, because he's kind of been trying to find that next role post Thrones. But I think he definitely is going to have a lot of opportunities now, given the eyeballs on this.
Yeah, so there were a couple things about the show. I mean, so it starts off with that scene on the train with the suicide bomber, and it really pulls you in from there. Like immediately, your heart rate's up. It's tense, and they do that a couple times throughout the show, which I think he plays that really well. That like, I'm terrified, but I'm also the person in the situation who can figure this out, so I need to like keep a level head. And I thought that was probably the parts I liked the most. I thought the relationship with the House Secretary or Home Secretary.
Like the Secretary of State in England, I think.
Yeah, I thought that those scenes were also really compelling, and their chemistry, I thought, really came through. The things I didn't like is this is a 6-episode series, 6.5 hours, and I feel like they covered so much plot in that time. It was almost like too much. I felt a little bit confused, and like, how did we get from here to here in 6.5 hours? It felt just like we covered a lot of ground, especially in like the last 2 episodes after this is spoilers at this point now, but after there's the bomb that goes off and kills the Home Secretary, I feel like all of a sudden there are characters I had no idea about who are being introduced and are playing this major role in the plot moving forward. So that would be my biggest gripe about it. Also, I mean, Richard Madden I thought was great in this role. I didn't think he was like like perfect. I thought that, you know, there were some things to be desired. I think especially like sometimes I don't necessarily think I believed his like sadder moments. I think like almost to a point it felt like when he was with his wife, I felt like that was real, but like some of the stuff with like his friends or his old army buddies and like his emotional reactions there, I was kind of like, did that really fit for what's going on? Maybe I didn't totally understand that part of the story. But overall, really a great watch. I'm glad Netflix got it so soon. Was there anything that you didn't like about this series?
Yeah, no, I think to those points, I mean, I think once Julia Montague, the House Secretary, once she dies, the dynamic of the show obviously changes because they were, you know,
Yeah.
like he was like his foil for David's foil for the first half of the show, right? And then I think she also helped kind of like ground the plot because, as you said, we get a lot of plot in this, and I actually really respect the show for not like wasting time with exposition. You know, I think
Definitely
the location shooting combined with the just like not holding your hand really helps the show feel like real. But you know, once Julia's gone, the show gets a little more frenetic, and there is again these other characters who we totally didn't quite understand their roles, especially for American viewers. We don't quite understand the way like the security people and the police people are different. You know, like that stuff. Like I guess that was what like was it like FBI and CIA difference. It's kind of unclear, right? So like the way that the various parts of their government is a little unclear for us foreign viewers, but I wouldn't say that's much of a negative. It's just, you know, just a choice they made. Also to that, when you mentioned Richard Madden's, you know, the quieter moments, I think the show consciously did not choose to explore his, you know, his thoughts and feelings. You know, I mean, they set up early on that he's at odds with Julia in terms of politics, right? You know, he has resentment for her for sending him to Afghanistan as he has PTSD, he's war veteran, right? But we never really get that. And that was a really cool setup where he's working for someone he fundamentally disagrees with. You already have the flipped power dynamic of a woman and a man, right? And they just don't really explore that. And like, yes, he has like they start like using his PTSD against him as the show progresses, but we never really get like that conversation. We don't really know what he believes or feels. You know, we just kind of realize that he's out there to uncover the truth and then clear his name, doing both together, you know? So that was a choice they made. You know, I think Jed Mercurio, the showrunner and the writer of the show, he is going to meet with Madden, I think, in a few weeks to discuss a season 2 if they do one. I mean, it's so successful, they'll probably do one, right? So I think, and he's also been very active on Twitter in terms of talking about the show. So I think he's going to see these criticisms and probably take them to heart. But yeah, those are choices they made. I don't think they ultimately negate the show, but they're worth pointing out just because, you know, things could have perhaps been done differently. I think for a 6-hour show, you know, it kind of reminded me a lot of Collateral, a show we talked about earlier in the year, Carey Mulligan, another BBC show. And also, I mean, I think it's kind of obvious, but it's a lot like the beginning of Homeland with Damian Lewis's character, and in a good way, you know. And I think it just shows it's got really cool set visuals for a place that's just London, but I think it's shot cool. And you have these set pieces, the sniper attack, the first 20 minutes of the show, obviously the big stuff in the finale, that interrogation scene in episode 4. There's just really good moments like that that really keep people engaged, but overall it moves at such a pace that I think it's, you know, it's tough to look away. So I was really pleased with it and was a big fan. So I actually would welcome another season.
Oh yeah, I definitely see a second season. I thought, you know, there was like a pseudo twist at the end, which I thought was pretty good with the person he saved, or the suicide bomber at the beginning, kind of being the one who sells out the plot to kill the secretary there, and just like the whole like he like underestimated her and thought, and it came back to like haunt him. I thought was really well done. So I would definitely love to see a second season of this show. Let's talk about Bond real quick. Richard Madden for Bond, yay or nay?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, like, again, I keep looking at the betting odds. I keep looking at the list, and it's like, in terms of like star power, I actually think he's kind of like the perfect pick because he's not a total unknown. You know, people recognize him. but they don't really like. He's below Tom Hardy and Tom Hiddleston, but he's not totally unknown, you know. So in that sense, I think he's like the right profile for the role. And I mean, between Rob and this role in particular, I think he could do it, especially if it was a more of a Daniel Craig-esque one where we kind of get more of like a damage Bond, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe he's not the best pick if you're trying to do like, I don't know,
Suave.
debonair suave Bond,
Yeah.
you know. But who would I want instead? Let's keep like who are our options? You know, obviously we want Idris Elba. It doesn't sound like that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Aiden Turner, I like Aiden Turner. Doesn't sound like he's famous enough. It's not gonna be Hiddleston. It's not gonna be Hardy. Like, and then I think those the other guys got passed over was gonna be Jack Rayner. It's gonna be Jack Houston. Like, no, I don't think so. So like, I think he's a decent pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think I still would love to see Elba. Yeah, I guess I'm not really sure who would be a better pick for that right now. I almost want them to nail down a director first, have them write the scripts, and then go after an actor that fits that Bond rather than the other way around, getting the Bond first and writing around him.
Right.
Have a good story to tell with Bond, and then get the actor that's going to fit for that.
And the thing is, this whole conversation is so premature because Bond 25 still untitled. Remember, they fired Danny Boyle, and then that announcement came from Eon, the MGM, the Bond people, and Daniel Craig. Like, Craig is part of this. Yeah, he's very heavy-handed in his final Bond movie, right? So they got that locked down. They only pushed it back a few weeks, but that's not coming out till early 2020. So unless they commission people to work on the next Bond movie while they're still in production for the last Craig one, like, how many movies, how many shows is Richard Madden going to do before he's actually signed on?
Right.
You know, it's so premature. But it's fun to talk about, especially when there's nothing else to talk about in the British news. So
a show we didn't talk about much, but definitely is worth it. David Simon's The Deuce on HBO, season 2. We talked about season 1. This show takes a look at sex workers, the sex trade in New York City in the 1970s. And we talked about, I think, the first episode or two at the beginning of the season. And season 1 was brilliant. Season 2, I didn't think was as good as season 1. I think my biggest gripe against it is while season 1 felt a little bit more cohesive to me in terms of other than Vince and what was going on with him, which ended up being tied in at the end, it was all around like the pimps and the different prostitutes and the storylines through them, and Vince at the end kind of being the puppet for the mob to create this different way of the prostitution. This season, there was a lot of different storylines that went a lot of different directions, and it was almost too much to fit into the 9 episodes. I mean, this was one more episode than last season. I felt like there were so many things that didn't really get explored to the extent they could have. The thing about it, though, is that David Simon still is so good at directing and creating these worlds and exploring these relationships that it's still a lot of fun to watch. And for a show to kind of leave you wanting more is like the biggest gripe you have against it is pretty good. So I would say that, I mean, The Deuce is still a top-notch show, very quality, but season 2 I think wasn't the strongest season of the 2 there have been so far. Only one more season left, but what was your take on season 2?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just incredibly well made. Like, it does very little few things not well, you know? Like, and, watching this, I think there's like less payoff this season. Like you just said it, like season 1, something is achieved. Like, the plot really moves by the end, right? And yes, we have advanced in years. Yes, now it's more about porn than really prostitution, right? But I just think, like, not all the characters were served this way. It's an ensemble show for sure. I mean, Vince and Candy are the leads, quote unquote, because they have the most screen time, but they don't really feel like the leads all the time, you know? And I think, I started to notice, like, I felt like Abby in particular was kind of underserved this season. I mean, what she just kind of helped trying to help the girls, but it just felt like she was way more involved in season one. It just didn't really go anywhere for her this year. Like she kept doing the same thing the whole time, basically, right? And that's it's not growth. It's just like they didn't give her much screen time this time. I thought Gary Carr again was brilliant as CC. Was a much more vicious, manipulative character this season. I thought we saw a lot more of like the quote, good sides of him in season one. And he got a lot darker this season. And I actually thought they timed his end quite well, actually. As Emily Mead's character is finally, becoming like a quote star, So I like that part. That's probably my favorite thing to see. But like, there's a lot of storylines in this. The police storyline doesn't quite go as much there. Like we get it set up right away, and then you kind of know what's happening. Like like the pre-AIDS gay storyline again could have had more with that. It's there, and again, none of these storylines are bad, but just like they're just kind of there. The mob stuff, we get other mob characters this season. Could have had more. We didn't get it. It's okay, but I actually thought Frankie actually had some better moments this season. Again, I don't think the dual role is necessary. For the twin brothers that Franco plays, but they do feel like two distinct performances. I did think Frankie had some cool moments this year, especially when he bags the older woman. I thought that was hilarious. I was laughing for like 5 minutes. That was great.
I also liked when he like gets the money from the mobster for the extra 20,000 for the was it Red Hot is the name of the movie, and he like pours it over her, and he puts his feet up, and he's like laying back, and they're like, Frankie, you got 2 left shoes on? He's like, yes, I do, and just like totally like owned it. I was like, okay, I'm down with Frankie being like somewhat competent, I guess, and also just owning his like stupidity.
And I also like the way they brought it in using Red Hot. Like again, that brings Frankie in as a producer, right? That brings Pipolo and the mob in, right, as producers and benefactors, right? And we also had made a ton of sense, but we had a moment where Candy is propositioned, in the Me Too era. I guess that's what it used to be like. So blatant like that, right? And seeing that. So again, I think the show does a lot of stuff. It's not like a show that's like keen on like here's new ideas for TV making, right? It's not like that, but it's just telling great stories in incredibly effective worlds in the Simon fashion. And it's again not much bad to say about it. I was still quite a big fan.
Who I think was probably my breakout character was Larry, played by Gabenga Ekanagbi.
Yeah,
I think I nailed that. He was really, really good this season, and seeing him, seeing him move from being a straight pimp in season 1 into an actor, and maybe even a legitimate actor by the end of season 2, was pretty interesting. Also, his relationship with Dorothy, who's played by what's her first name? Fishburne. Dominique Fishback. I thought was really interesting seeing her kind of. They became more like equals by the end of it, or at least like he respected her more.
Yeah, and he also was at the forefront of most of the conversations about race on the show too. So I thought he really took a step up. Great character development for him for sure, and like that's great to see. But again, it comes at the expense of other characters because there was only so much screen time. It's a big ensemble. Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
I really laughed when the photographer was taking his headshots, and he like told him he needed to take a picture of him with his pants off, and he like finally laid down with his pants off, and he's like, I wouldn't want to see that thing get angry at me. I was dying laughing. The show really does inject humor really well into this. What do you think of Maggie Gyllenhaal this season? Because Candy is a major character in this, but probably the most tragic tale in a lot of ways. So, I mean, I guess like other than like Dorothy, who this season really had a sad arc. But yeah, Maggie Gyllenhaal and her relationship with her son is really tough to watch at points.
Yeah, you just kind of feel like given when this show is taking place, late 70s, could be the 80s for the final seasons, like you just kind of feel like how it's going to end. It's like you can't really see the happiest of endings, So that is tough. I really liked her storyline. I really like seeing like her take charge and be a avant-garde filmmaker, independent as fuck. That was really cool. And I thought Harvey Wasserman, David Krumholtz, ton of weight loss this year.
Yeah.
he's really funny as a character actor too. So I really like that plot. I thought that was probably the most consistent of them, because it's probably the most thing we had to a through line. Started bringing characters in. But Maggie Gyllenhaal said before she joined the show that she was not interested in playing a prostitute straight up. She wanted to that be a deeper character, and that's part of the reason she's a producer on the show. But also because there's a lot of growth for Candy too. So yeah, I thought she was still quite good.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really, I think, and too much more to say about it other than David Simon is quality. The show is quality. Definitely check it out. Why don't we jump to Bohemian Rhapsody? This thing, bit of a monster, dude. 50 million at the box office opening, second largest musical biopic opening ever, which is, I mean, a pretty specific.
Sure.
I don't know.
Tweet.
Yeah. Bryan Singer, we talked a little bit about the issues he had directing this, his unprofessionalism throughout the filming and the conflicts he had with Rami Malek, or at least they were reported. This is sitting at 59% on Rotten Tomatoes, but pretty much everything I saw from anyone that went to go see the movie this weekend was that they left very satisfied and really enjoying the movie. Why is there such a low Rotten Tomatoes score? But why are critics saying that this isn't good? Because I think you got Queen, you got Rami, you got a decent director. Like, how could this thing miss?
Yeah, no, I think the critics are right for all the points they're making. But I also think that A- cinema score you're seeing from the audience, fanfare, makes sense too. Again, this was projected to do like 30 million, so way beat out that projection because people fucking like Queen. Queen is crowd pleasing. Queen has hits on hits, and this is a movie that the surviving members of Queen commissioned to, celebrate the band. And the movie was made with that in mind. So when you watch the movie and you see these set pieces, you hear all the Queen music. And that was licensed out, right? Because the Queen dudes made this, Brian May and Roger Taylor. And I think the movie was made to be like that. But the problem I think what critics see is that it's kind of a movie that just kind of goes, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here. And we're not going too high, we're not going too low, we're not going to really explore anything. A lot of stuff's going to be predictable, even if you don't know the story. And then, it's just kind of usually show you with set pieces. So I think the critic points make sense, but I still found the movie incredibly entertaining as a big Queen fan. So I'm fine, So I do think it's a story.
I mean, it's funny when you said Queen is just incredibly entertaining. It's just, that's what it is. You have Queen, you're playing it really loud. Malek basically embodies Mercury to a T, especially that, like the last or the third act of the movie when he has the mustache and the shorter haircut. I was like, damn, he really does look like Freddie Mercury in this role. They took a lot of liberties with the story. They pretty much just like retold the last like 10 years or 5 years especially, which is a bit troubling, but I don't know. It's hard for me to hate this movie.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. I think even people that like will say, hey, this wasn't like the best film, can still say they're entertained by it. I don't think that's a mutually exclusive thing. It's it's not so binary to enjoy art, right? As we've said before. But I think, part of those critical issues are probably rooted in the fact that initially Sacha Baron Cohen was attached to this film, and this is over 5 years ago, right? And like they wanted to make a hard R-rated, hedonistic as fuck film about Freddie, and I mean, obviously he's legendary for his drugs and his sex and stuff, right? And we don't really see that. It's kind of sanitized for this film, and his grappling with sexuality, it's there, but it's not really that deep. And it just, I think those are just the decisions that stand out when you're watching it with a critical eye. But again, for what it is, I still think it's quite entertaining. I think a big part of that is that It's just doing the biopic-y things, but because it's like so light, it's just kind of moving at a brisk pace. This happened. We made Killer Queen. We made Fat Bottom Girls. We made Bohemian Rhapsody, etc. It's like, all right, cool. Let's just go on the ride. That's really what the movie is about, right? But like you said, the inaccuracies are funny though, dude. Like we don't know exactly when he got diagnosed for AIDS, but everyone's almost certain that it was a few years after Live Aid. It certainly wasn't brought upon the band right before the performance. They also were like
they were touring 2 months prior to Live Aid.
It's like they had just made an album that they were touring worldwide before Live Aid. It's not like they were broken up or anything. So that whole like thing for dramatic tension, I think is effective as a filmmaking technique in this case.
Yeah,
but wildly inaccurate. It was probably going to mislead some people.
Definitely. It's also. I guess I'll tell a funny story too, and then I'll kind of circle back around. The people we were sitting next to in the theater when he started to when he made out with Paul for the first time at the piano, literally gasped. They had no idea Freddie Mercury was gay. They were like, what? Like Julianne actually burst out laughing at them because we were like, what movie did you think you came to see? Like
that reminds me of some tweets I saw this week where someone was like, after watching A Star Is Born, someone next to me said, "Who is Lady Gaga?" Like, how are you so clueless? And especially like Bohemian Rhapsody, like, I guess that's kind of a power of Queen. Like, Queen is a band that's transcended so much that they have songs, "We Will Rock You," "We're the Champions," that are so synonymous with sporting event parties that people don't even know what band it is. They just know the song verbatim anyway, So I guess that leaked out into the film too, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I think the Live Aid performance and some of the other, like a couple other scenes from this are really just like great filmmaking. I do think there were some things that didn't really fit so well. I do want like Rami Malek when he's playing Freddie and he moves into that huge apartment and he's doing the whole like light on, light off thing with what was her name, Mary. I thought that was like Rami Malek playing his character from Papillon to like as Freddie Mercury. It was really strange. And then also like how you could tell Brian May and Roger Taylor had their fingers all over like the production of this. Cause like at the end when he's like Freddie Mercury tells him that they have AIDS, they go, "Freddie, you're a legend." And he goes, "We're all legends." I was like, yeah, I was like, oh man. And also it was like they really highlighted the moments when the other members of the band had some serious input into a song and how important they were in the production of all the music, which is fine. But I don't really give a shit about the Brian May story or the Roger Taylor story. I want to know Freddie Mercury story.
Exactly. I think Queen is an important band because all four of them wrote songs and wrote hit songs. Like, it's not like that wasn't true. But no one is interested in the Queen story for those dudes, as you just said. We're there for Freddie. And the fact that, like, more than once, it's like we're having this creative argument in the studio. Oh, shit. John Deacon just played the riff to Another One Bites the Dust. Argument's over.
Right.
Hit. It's just incredibly unbelievable. But,
definitely
you go with it. You have a good time. Like, also, like, another thing that's so obvious is an unrecognizable Mike Myers plays this like composite executive character who's apparently off of an executive who was quite supportive of the band, but only slightly disliked Bohemian Rhapsody. So that's way hammed up for the film. But he's just like, you'll never be a success in this town. Bohemian Rhapsody is not a hit. It's not the single. It's something like the car song, right? And it's just like, we know it's going to happen. And also, why have that scene when we fucking know it's Queen? Jesus Christ, they sold like 500 million records or whatever it is, right?
Right. Like, did you know that was Michael Myers?
No idea.
There was one moment when he said something like, he's like, "No one's going to listen to this." This is my horrible impression, but it sounded just like Fat Bastard. And I was like, "Is that Mike Myers?" I was like, "There's no way that's Mike Myers." And then when Julianne told me it was, I was blown away. The thing about this movie is I think that out of a lot of the movies I've seen recently, it's probably one that I would love to rewatch the most just because it is a really entertaining movie and it's just really fun. And if you like Queen, like who doesn't like Queen, you're going to enjoy it. Do you think Malik's performance in this is nomination worthy, though?
Worthy, yes, I think it's definitely worthy. I think they made an important choice to not have him try and sing like Freddie.
Yes.
First of all, how many good actors could even attempt that mimicry? Probably very few, if any, right?
Zero.
But no one wants to hear someone do mediocre, perhaps decent covers of Queen when it's such a
Right.
legendary vocalist, right? So smart call. I think we can look at examples like Walk the Line, for example. Great film. Joaquin Phoenix was singing competently as Johnny Cash, right? But that was the choice they made. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then we have other films like La La Land, for example. Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling, not the best singers, not bad, but not the best. Even Beauty and the Beast, Emma Watson as Belle, not the best. If you dubbed her,
Mm-hmm.
it probably would have been better. But I think they made an important choice with this, and we will see soon um, how this choice works because next year, I believe in May, end of May, uh, the director of this film, who finished the film for Singer, what's his name, Fleischer,
Yeah.
Rube Fleischer, right? He made a Rocket Man, the Elton John biopic with Taron Egerton, and Taron Egerton sung the songs. And I like Taron Egerton. I do not know anything about his singing voice, and Elton John is no cakewalk for that. So we will see how that decision works out. But Rami, I think, is definitely awards worthy. But I was looking at the race. This is a tough race. I don't know if it's going to crack. But do you think he's awards worthy, considering he was dubbed, considering he was mimicking someone to such a degree?
The thing is, like, so you talk about like the Doors, the biopic about Jim Morrison. I'm just gonna have to power through these sirens. I don't know what the hell's going on in my block today. I think the FBI is coming to knock my door down.
Bodyguard season 2 filming.
But like he really becomes Jim Morrison, and he sings. Johnny Cash. It's Joaquin Phoenix. He becomes Johnny Cash. No one can sing like Freddie Mercury. Like even watching that live performance at the end that they put during the credits, it didn't even look like Freddie Mercury's, like his own voice is coming out of him. That's like how good his voice is. So I don't really knock him too much. He really becomes him in terms of like his mannerisms and the way he like stalks on the stage. And I think for that, that's incredibly impressive. And I think it's definitely worthy. But like you said, the race is really, really tight. And I think the only lock we have right now is Bradley Cooper. Like, yeah, that's the only one we know is going to definitely be there. Gosling is probably on the fringe. Just I feel like First Man didn't get as much steam as people thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Viggo Mortensen will probably get in there for Green Book. That looks really good. I think Christian Bale, after Vice comes out, is going to be up there.
Robert Redford, final movie.
Yeah. I mean, I would like that.
Also Ethan Hawke for First Reformed is right there. Lucas Hedges for Boy Erased is right there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how they're
Timothy
doing.
Chalamet,
Viggo and Mahershala for Green Book, but one of them is probably there. That's a lot of guys. There's only 5 nominations. So Rami feels like the Golden Globes likes him. He got 2 noms and a win for Robot for that, right? So maybe if the Globes nominate him, that'll help. But he'll probably just miss, which is disappointing. But good win for him regardless. I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, such a different role than he's played. You think about Elliot and Mr. Robot, his role in the Pacific, Papillon. I mean, he has always played these kind of weirdos who are very like just within themselves, and this was something where he got to be completely opposite. So overall, go see Bohemian Rhapsody. If you're gonna like it, it's gonna be fun. You don't need to take it that seriously. It's okay. Why don't we talk about what we'll be talking about next week, though?
Well, shit. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, shit.
In terms of movies, I saw Wildlife. If you see Wildlife by you, we'll talk about that. Carey Mulligan's really good in it. Boy Erased with Lucas Hedges, I think, will be out by us finally. We'll probably talk about that. There's other movies in small release right now, like Burning, Private War, both really well liked. So we're in movie season right now. So we'll talk about some of that. And also, one thing we're going to talk about, but in wide release, Girl in the Spider's Web, Claire Foy season continuing. Overlord from Bad Robot is out, which is getting pretty good reviews. television-wise, we'll be talking about Homecoming, the Amazon Prime
Mhm.
series. Julia Roberts, Papa Cannavale. We started it, but we had a packed show. We like to just see it all and talk about it like we just did with Bodyguard, so stay tuned for that. Then it's a fuck ton of music, man. I don't know which ones we're going to talk about yet, but a lot of stuff. Muse, Smino, Little Dragon, posthumous Little Peep album, The Underachievers, Trippie Redd, Cupcake, a Brain Feeder 36 track label compilation. A lot of stuff. So we'll talk about some of that. I'm sure some of it's really good.
Well, we'll be talking about a lot next week, I have a feeling. So
I forgot
stay tuned.
One other thing. Outlaw King, Chris Pine's Braveheart movie about Robert the Bruce, directed by David Mackenzie, who directed Hell or High Water, is out on Netflix this Friday. And I know the reviews are somewhat middling, but it looks like it's heavy on the set pieces. It's got a big cast, and I fucking like Braveheart despite its flaws. So I'm gonna see that. So maybe we'll talk about that too. But a lot of content. So plan your time wisely.
A lot of content. So hit that subscribe button on all platforms. Follow us at Nowstalgia Pod on Twitter, at Martin Swagger, and at Sheening World Peace. And most importantly, go vote tomorrow. We love you. See you next week.